Good evening, and welcome to the Community Engagement Forum entitled Energy. Top 10 things you can do to conserve energy and save money. I'm Jack Reisenberg, 3rd Ward Alderman, and I'm joined this evening with several members of the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership and students from Cherokee School's 4th grade class. Community forums are hosted by the City of Lake Forest and are designed to provide an informal opportunity to get involved in complex community issues, stimulate intellectual curiosity and civil debate, and gather greater awareness of the challenges and opportunities facing Lake Forest. Presenters this evening include Lake Forest resident Kurt Volkman from the Environmental Law and Policy Center in Chicago and chair of the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership. Glenn Adelson, associate professor and chair of environmental studies at Lake Forest College. Jim Sullivan, assistant principal for evaluation and assessment at Lake Forest High School. Anissa Chaudhry, environmental education coordinator at Lake Forest Open Lands, and students from Cherokee School presenting projects showing what they've learned about the environment and sustainability. Now, before I turn the program over to Kurt, let's review the agenda. I've pretty much taken care of the welcome, given my 2-minute time frame. I will turn the program over to Kurt, who will discuss and intro the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership. Then Glenn and Kurt will discuss our global and local energy systems. Then the Cherokee School students will discuss renewable energy in Lake Forest, followed by Anissa and Jim discussing saving energy and money at home and on the road. And then we'll try to save about, on the agenda we said 45 minutes for questions and answers. We'll see where the goal is to kind of have wrap up by around 8:30. So we'll see whether we can stick to that agenda. Kurt?
Good evening. Thank you, Jack, and thanks to all of you for coming out tonight on an evening we have both the Bulls and the Blackhawks playing in a playoff game. It's nice to see such a large crowd, so really appreciate you coming out. As Jack mentioned, I'd like to just take a couple of minutes and introduce the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership, tell you a bit about who we are and what we're doing. We are a volunteer organization, and we have a pretty active steering committee that meets at least once a month. And I'd just like to take a second and introduce the steering committee members. Jack mentioned a couple of them already. Glenn Adelson, who's associate professor and chair of the environmental studies at Lake Forest College. Jim Sullivan, you heard about, assistant principal at the high school. Chuck Myers, superintendent of parks and forestry for the city of Lake Forest. I saw Lauren Fagel. Please stand up, Lauren. Who for another month and a half is the assistant superintendent for School District 67 and 115. Thanks, Lauren. And John Sintel, who's president of Lake Forest Open Lands Association, is also on our steering committee. So we were formed initially in early 2013, and we have kind of 3 primary objectives. First is to promote awareness of environmental concerns such as air and water quality, ravine and bluff degradation, invasive species, tree diseases, and the need to reduce waste. Secondly, we intend to develop and promote awareness of community-wide projects and programs aimed at improving our natural environment and quality of life in Lake Forest. Third, we hope to engage a network of resident volunteers to take action to address these environmental issues and better manage the natural resources of our city. So awareness and engagement are kind of the themes that guide what we do and how we think about our projects going forward. We started work in 2013 and began by understanding the water systems that we have in the city And that led to a community engagement forum much like this a couple of years ago, where we had a good discussion about actions that residents can take to preserve the quality and quantity of water in our community. Last year we focused on ravines, and with support from a grant from the state of Illinois, we did some restoration work and developed a series of education materials, some of which you may have seen when you came in this evening, intended to explain the important role that ravines play in our community. This year we're focused on energy, and you'll hear what we've learned about energy this evening, and we're also in the early stages of developing a community-wide sustainability plan. So look for more information in the coming months about how you can get involved if you're interested in helping with the sustainability plan. And by all means, if you're interested in participating in any way with our collaborative, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the steering committee members that I introduced. So with that, let's talk about energy, and I'd like to introduce Glenn Adelson.
Thank you, Jack and Kurt. I need this. So I'm going to talk. Good. About why everyone should be concerned about our global energy future and why everybody should be concerned about our personal energy use. The information that I'd like to go over today, if I were teaching one of my environmental studies courses, I would probably devote 2 or 3 class sessions to, and I'm going to try to get through it in 5 minutes because there are far more important speakers that are going to be presenting today. So please forgive me if I gloss over some things. But thinking about our energy futures, one of the most important things to think about is that there is a limited amount of non-renewable energy on the planet, and there are major changes in energy consumption that are going on our planet right now. So we have 7 of the 8 largest countries in the world, that is with the largest populations, are not OECD countries. The United States is the only country that's an OECD country that is in the top 8 in the world in population, and you can see that there is a tremendous increase in energy consumption in countries like China, India, Indonesia, Brazil, Nigeria, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, which are the 7 countries that I refer to. And there's absolutely no reason on earth to think that that won't continue on in the future. So as global citizens, we should be concerned about an over-reliance on non-renewable energy. Everything on this chart will be on the midterm, so pay careful attention. It's hard to see it from here. It's very small on this screen, and I'm at the wrong angle here. But the main point of this flow chart is there are tremendous inefficiencies in our traditional use of energy, tremendous inefficiencies in coal and natural gas generated electricity, and tremendous inefficiencies in petroleum generated transportation energy. So one of the things about the non-renewability of this energy is that even as we use it, we are losing 68% of the energy to heat and to other aspects, mostly in the power plants themselves, before the energy, the electrical energy, and for the most part we're talking about coal-generated electrical energy, gets to the final consumer, be it residential, commercial, or industrial. And in our transportation use of fuels, we're losing 79%. So we have extraordinarily low efficiencies in our traditional energy use. There are a whole raft of other concerns, and I use the word raft advisedly because we just passed the 5th anniversary of the destruction of the platform in the Gulf of Mexico and the Deepwater Horizon blowout. The explosion took place on April 20th, 2010, and the well itself sank and released oil into the Gulf of Mexico on April 22nd, so that's 5 years ago yesterday. And one of the things that everyone should know is that there are dangers associated with energy delivery, as well as these inefficiencies. Another aspect of our traditional energy use, and this goes hand in hand with the inefficiencies, is that in power plants, especially coal-burning electrical power plants, a tremendous amount of water has to be used in order to cool the plants as they work. And so water, of course, is a major limiting factor in much of the things that we do. If you look at a diagram that shows the world's water, you can see that we are over, what does it say there, 95%? Almost 96% of all the water in the world is in the oceans. We have very little available fresh water. And this is just a diagram to give you a sense. We have groundwater, we have water in lakes and water in rivers, and that's basically our available fresh water to use in the world. And what's been happening in California should be a warning bell to us, to anyone that is concerned about the limiting factor of water. We happen to live right now in the place in the world that has the least concern about losing fresh water. We have the Great Lakes right next to us, but we shouldn't let that lull us into a sense of security. What I'm going to show you now is a series of maps that present the drought concerns in California taken each March up until this March, which March represents the end of the rainy season in California. So you can see that in 2011, there were no drought concerns at all. 2012, we get drought concerns basically throughout the whole state, but not severe drought concerns. 2013, 2014, and just last month. So there is going to be a continuing concern about the availability of water, and as I mentioned, especially with coal-burning electric plants, water is consumed in huge amounts. In terms of the energy delivery systems, these two recent disasters show us something of the insecurity of our systems. In your upper left is a crude oil train that derailed outside of Galena, Illinois, just last month, and the explosions that occurred from it. And this was the third train carrying crude that derailed within the month prior to this one. So by moving things like natural gas and crude oil and petroleum throughout the world, there are the potential for disasters like this that are always present, and there's pretty much a certainty that such disasters will occur. We just don't know when and where. In the lower right hand, we have an increase in severity of windstorms, a term that meteorologists are using called derechos, represent extreme windstorms. And with extreme windstorms like this is a 2012 photograph of a collapse of the electrical grid in the Midwest. And this is also a part of the energy delivery systems that that rely on traditional non-renewable fuels. Our main speakers for today are going to tell us a lot about the alternatives to these. So I'll just end by showing you that there's been an increase in weather-related energy system disasters over the last 4 or 5 years. And this is another aspect that we will only expect that this increase will continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Glenn. Let's talk a little bit about our local energy systems now. Starting with power generation in Illinois. Glenn talked a lot about coal and the water intensity of traditional power generation. We are a classic state in that we are heavily reliant on 2 primary sources of fuel for power generation, nuclear and coal. These are statistics from 2012. It's a bit dated and it's changed a bit in the last couple of years. But Illinois has more nuclear power plants than any other state in the U.S. We actually have 11 operating nuclear reactors at 6 locations around the state that collectively make up almost half of the electricity that's generated in Illinois. Coal makes up about 40%, followed way behind by natural gas. Now there is a transition occurring from coal to natural gas because natural gas is so cheap right now. But it's still significantly much smaller portion of the generation portfolio in the state. And then lastly, we do have a lot of wind in the state, but as you can see, it's still a fraction of the total generation, total supply. Our supply, our electricity market, I should say, in Illinois is what's referred to as deregulated. That means that these power plants are owned by independent companies. They're not owned by the regulated utilities. And that these suppliers compete for business from all of us to buy our supply. These power plants then feed into the delivery system that Glenn touched on, beginning with the transmission system, which you'll see everywhere, these big, ugly, tall steel structures with big lines. This is the series of transmission lines that go parallel to Highway 41 that we all see when we drive by. It's beautiful. Transmission lines feed substations, which are further step down the voltage of the electricity to distribution levels. These are examples of an overhead and an underground distribution transformer. You see the characteristic garbage can looking thing on the top of a wood pole. That's an overhead distribution transformer. The green box that many of you might have in your yard is actually an underground distribution transformer. Vast majority of our electricity grid in the U.S. is above ground, and Glenn shared with you some of the implications of that and how fragile it is. The distribution system then feeds your meter at your house, and surprisingly and remarkably, it still takes a person to go by every month to look at your meter to figure out how much electricity you've used. And then ultimately it goes into the home where we plug in our appliances and our electronics, etc. I mentioned that we're in a competitive market in Illinois, and it's actually a very robust competitive market. We have over 40 competitive suppliers competing to sell us electricity. There's also a phenomena, or a policy, I should say, called municipal aggregation in Illinois, which is pretty rare. Municipal aggregation allows cities like Lake Forest, on behalf of its residents, to enter into supply contracts to save money. And Lake Forest actually did that 3 years ago. MC Squared has been the supplier of our electricity for the last 3 years, and we've saved several $1 million for all of us by entering into that contract. So there's robust competition on the supply side. On the delivery side, there's not. There's one single regulated entity, which is, anybody know? ComEd, that's right. So ComEd is the single delivery company, which is probably a good thing because we wouldn't want to have multiple sets of wires running up and down our streets. ComEd is a natural monopoly. It's a regulated entity. ComEd does all the billing for all of this. You get one electricity bill every month, and there is a line item delineation between the supply and the delivery component of your bill, so you see what you're paying. The gas side is similar, but it's not as clear because much of the gas infrastructure is underground. It begins also on the supply side, which is deregulated in the US, deregulated in Illinois, with the extraction, pulling the gas out of the ground, the processing, the transmission, and the storage. Again, much of that is below ground, leading to the delivery network, which begins with what's referred to as the city gate, and this is where the pressure of the gas is reduced to the distribution level, to the distribution pipes, and again, 100% of these are underground. There's no above ground gas distribution lines, to a gas meter, and another somebody has to come by and read your gas meter every month to see how much gas you used. There's two different companies, so we got two people walking around our neighborhoods doing that. Ultimately into our homes and businesses where we burn gas. It is deregulated, it is competitive, but not as robust on the gas side. You can choose an alternative gas supplier. As of today, there are 8 different competitive suppliers in Lake Forest. Very, very few people shop for gas. It's a lot more complicated than electricity. Most of us just accept supply and delivery from our gas company, which is North Shore Gas, right? So they are the regulated entity that delivers gas and also provides supply if you choose not to shop. Transportation fuel is even clearer and more familiar to all of us. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of places for you to pull in to fill up your tank. But increasingly, we have options to drive electric vehicles, or EVs, by charging and plugging them directly into the grid. The average Lake Forest resident spends about $3,000 a year on gasoline. And toward the end of the program tonight, Jim is going to explain to you why we think driving electric vehicles can be a very good thing, not only for your wallet, but for the environment. Oops. So, $3,000 a year for gasoline. The average Lake Forest household spends $2,300 a year on electricity and $3,100 a year on natural gas. So $5,400 a year goes toward gas and electricity. And where does it go? How do we use it? Well, ComEd did a study in 2013 examining the uses of electricity, and this is what they concluded, that there are 4 categories of electricity consumption that make up almost 2/3 of what we use. Lighting, major appliances, so these are your stove and or your refrigerator and your freezer, cooling, your air conditioning, and electronics and computing. So these are your laptop, your desktop computer, the cable box that you plug in. So those are the 4 categories that make up 2/3 of electricity consumption. They also, in the same study, identified what they called wasted energy. And there are 2 categories of wasted energy: technology and behavioral. Technology waste is when you don't have the most efficient appliance, when you're not using the most efficient light fixture or light bulb, that you could go out and buy a more efficient device or more efficient fixture. Behavioral waste is simply when you forget to turn the lights out when you leave the room, or when you leave your computer on overnight. So ComEd estimated what the wasted energy is across those 4 major categories associated with behavioral and technology waste, and it's astonishing. 76% of the electricity we use for lighting is wasted. Meaning if we took steps to put in more efficient fixtures, more efficient bulbs, we're mindful about turning the lights off when we leave the room, we could cut the cost of our electricity consumption for lighting by 3/4, by 76%. Similarly, on the cooling side, 2/3 of the electricity we use for cooling our homes is wasted. And that's often because we have a tendency to forget about it, and we cool our homes and our businesses and our rooms when the building's unoccupied. The gas companies did a similar thing. This was more recent. This was just published this year. Gas companies, North Shore Gas, identified really just 2 main categories of gas consumption: space heating and water heating. So this is your furnace and this is your water heater. Pretty straightforward. Those are really only the 2 main things that we use natural gas for in Lake Forest. There is some gas cooking. There's other small uses of natural gas, but these are the 2 biggies. North Shore Gas also looked at wasted energy and identified that half of the natural gas we use to heat our homes is wasted. Again, same kind of thing. We tend to forget about it. We tend to just leave the heater on when we leave. We don't set it back at night. And water heating, it's not quite as much, 28%, but this is when we have our water heater setting perhaps too high. We take a lot of long hot showers, whatever it might be. So Anissa, after the discussion of renewable energy, is going to give you some specific recommendations on things that you can do to attack this category of wasted energy in both the electricity and natural gas, to not just save energy, but save a lot of money as well. But first, I'd like to briefly introduce renewable energy. Glenn explained the importance of finding more sustainable energy systems as we address the growing population and the world's demand for energy. Put simply, renewable energy is defined to be naturally replenishing in our lifetime with net zero carbon emissions and zero waste. Now, every country and every state defines renewable energy or what is renewable very differently, and you can see in Illinois it's more than just wind and solar. There's a broad category of technologies that Illinois considers to be renewable energy. We're not going to talk about all of them tonight, but I just want to give you a sense of what the state considers to be renewable. Now I'd like to introduce some real experts on renewable energy. The fourth graders from Cherokee Elementary School. These students recently completed an inspiration unit on renewable energy, and I had the privilege of hearing their final presentation, and I was so impressed that I invited them to come join us tonight to share with you everything that they've learned and their specific recommendations for renewable energy in Lake Forest. So let's welcome the Cherokee Cheetahs.
Thank you for inviting us to share our information about renewable energy. I'm here with my 4th grade classmates from Cherokee School. We will share a short video with you about renewable energy and the experiences that led us to our understanding of it. We will also share our recommendations of renewable energy for Lake Forest. Thank you. I hope you enjoy this presentation.
The 4th grade inspiration block students were posed with this driving question. As civil engineers, what is the best source of renewable energy for community?
In order to answer that, our first step was to answer an essential question. How was energy transferred?
Through inquiry and lots of hands-on experiences, we learned about Newton's law of motion and explained the transfer of energy by building Newton's cradle.
We explored and analyzed electrical energy by making circuits.
We manipulated gears to understand how mechanical energy is transferred. We were challenged to plan, design, and build roller coasters so that we could explain potential and kinetic energy.
Throughout these activities, we worked together in partner and small group teams to design, construct, and apply our knowledge of energy.
We made many attempts. We succeeded at some and failed at many.
We took risks and posed new solutions to different problems.
Eventually, we all shared the understanding of basic energy and the transfer of energy in different forms. For our next step to being civil engineers, we applied to be part of a team that would further investigate 3 types of energy: hydro, wind, and solar.
Our team consisted of kids from each class who are interested in researching that type of energy.
And who would explore its sources of renewable and non-renewable energy for our community.
While we were in these teams, we were challenged to work together to build models.
Team Hydro designed and constructed penstocks and dams. Team Wind built their own wind farms and wind turbines.
Team Solar constructed solar houses.
Each team gathered and analyzed data about that type of energy and usage.
We manipulated and tested variables.
We compared the pros and cons of renewable and non-renewable energy. Sometimes we had to dispel myths and misconceptions about our energy source.
We consulted experts in the field.
And we discussed the values and priorities our community has on these issues.
In the end, each team was charged to make a recommendation to the community based on our findings.
Our next step was for each energy team to give a presentation about their recommendations to the rest of the teams. Then we voted on which was the best source of renewable energy that we could all support and believe in.
As it turned out, our energy teams decided that a combination of wind and solar power would be the best for Lake Forest.
Our last step was to present to a larger audience of parents and members of Cherokee and Lake Forest community.
During a question and answer session, we were invited to join the Lake Forest Collaborative for Environmental Leadership at their next meeting.
He explained that the work we did in school might be able to help the community by making them more aware of different types of energy sources.
And our renewable energy ideas that could benefit the collaborative.
In their work on behalf of Lake Forest's future.
Our Inspirational Black Energy is an example of how we at Cherokee School are being educated without boundaries.
We are learning without limits.
We are Team Hydro. In order to create energy, work needs to happen. When water flows enough force, it can turn a turbine into work. We wanted to test this process. We built a turbine on a rotating shaft, then attached a piece of string with a paperclip on it. If the paperclip was lifted, and the turbine was rotated by flowing water, we knew that the water could do work. Take a moment to watch what we discovered. Energy is transferred from moving water to electricity in a hydroelectric dam. This happens when the waters from rivers, lakes, and streams goes into the dam, spins the turbine powers a generator, which makes electricity that is used to power our homes. But how does a dam create electricity? It is created with a generator. There's only one type of generator that we have learned, but they are a little difficult to explain. In the generator, there is a copper coil that is surrounded by a ring of magnets. But how does a generator work? There's a rotating shaft that spins a ring of magnets. This creates a magnetic field, and because of the magnetic field, the electrons in the copper will jump. Moving electrons equals electricity. This energy goes through many power lines. These power lines are what transfer energy from the dam to wherever it is needed. So, to review, the generator gets spun by a turbine. The turbine is connected to a rotating shaft, and on the other end is connected to a generator. But how does a turbine spin? Why, the penstock, of course. A penstock is a huge, long pipe that is kind of like the tube for a water slide. It carries water to the turbine. The turbine gets spun by the water, pushing against the blades of the turbine. We tested this method to see how the amount of water affects the force. Does the penstock get the water from the reservoir? That's exactly where it's from. But where does the water go after it spins the turbine? After the water spins the turbine, it goes on the other side of the dam so that it can be used again. Oh, I get it now. So the water from the reservoir goes through the penstock, pushing the blades of the turbine. Through the penstock, pushing the blades of the turbine, causing the turbine to move. When the turbine moves, it spins the generator through a rotating shaft. This creates electricity, and the energy is transferred to wherever it's needed by the power lines. Exactly. Great job, Jeremy.
After all of our learning, we need to think about the benefits and drawbacks of using hydropower for our community. We want to preserve the natural green space and the lake. This is what Lake Forest residents like best about their community. If we want to stay green, we could use a renewable energy source because it would lead to less pollution. Hydropower can be a clean, renewable energy source for our environment. This would help because we want to keep Lake Forest green. It can be easy because Lake Michigan has such a big water supply. So the more water, the more energy. Next, we are on cons, and sadly, there are quite a few.
Having a dam could change the lake forever. We think about this because the lake is so beautiful, and if you put a dam in the lake, all the beauty would go away. Dams reduce the amount of oxygen, and it can be harmful to living creatures. With a dam, it would be too dangerous to swim in the lake. The water current would be too dangerously strong, and the likelihood of drowning would increase. In the future, we may be able to use a new type of hydropower to generate electricity for our city. But for now, we don't think hydropower is the greatest idea for our special community.
For Team Wind. How is wind made? First, we need to define what wind is. Wind is the movement of air. Now we need to define how wind is made. The process is pretty simple, and it happens every day all over the earth. The Earth's surface absorbs more energy in some places than it does in others. The amount of heat the Earth absorbs depends upon what color it is and whether it's on land or water. As the sun's light turns to heat on the Earth, the air just above the Earth's surface warms. This warm air becomes less dense, and this causes the warm air to rise. The warm air rises and the colder air sinks, replacing it. This movement of warm air and cold air over the Earth's surface is wind. Why is wind renewable? The definition of renewable energy that comes from resources which are natural. Replenish. This means if you can replace the energy in a lifetime of a human or less, this energy source is renewable. Wind power is renewable. It's renewable because as long as the sun shines, there will be wind. As long as there is wind, the earth can have wind power. Wind is also free because no one can own the sun or the air. The wind turbine is a machine that takes wind energy and transfers it into electricity. There are many parts of a wind turbine, and a very important one is the nacelle. The nacelle is on top of the tower. On the nacelle, there's an anemometer that measures the speed and direction the wind is blowing. The nacelle rotates the wind turbine into the direction of the wind. The wind hits the turbine, causing the blades to spin. This is wind energy. As the blades capture the wind, it causes the main shaft to spin inside the nacelle. And the wind energy is transferred into mechanical energy. The main shaft is magnetic. As it turns inside the loops of copper wire inside the generator, it causes electrons to move. This is electrical energy, which is electricity. Then the electricity moves down the tower along a cable to a system of underground cables. These cables bring the electricity to the substation. The substation is where the electricity connects to the electrical lines that go to our houses.
People often have concerns about wind turbines. One concern is that wind turbines are too noisy. Traditional wind turbines are less noisy than a lawnmower, a blender, a vacuum, or a window air conditioner. Newer wind turbines are virtually noise-free. Another concern is that wind turbines can impact the wildlife and the birds in a very negative way. For every 10,000 birds killed, less than one bird is killed by a wind turbine. More than half of the 10,000 birds are killed by birds flying into buildings and windows. House cats kill 10% of these birds.
People think wind turbines cost too much. The electricity from wind turbines is 3 to 4.5 cents per kilowatt. In 2011, wind power provided over 12% of the renewable energy in the United States. One of the biggest reasons people do not like wind turbines is the way they look. Modern wind turbines look so much different and nicer than they used to. Some even look like this. Another way for us to harness the wind without changing the view is to create offshore wind farms. 20 kilometers off the coast of Kent, England is the London Wind Farm. It is 175 turbines are capable of generating 500,000 UK homes and reduce harmful carbon dioxide emissions by more than 900,000 tons a year, so it's making a big difference to the environment as well as helping provide a reliable electricity supply to southeast England. It is the largest operational wind farm in the world. Using wind turbines as a renewable energy source has many advantages to wind turbines. Wind turbines use the resource of wind that is blowing all around us every day. Wind turbines do not pollute the air or harm the environment. There be no coal mining process, no oil spills, no acid rain, no negative effects on people's health, no nuclear release, and so many other wonderful reasons to choose the beautiful breezy wind. Collecting the data of wind speed from various locations in my course, including Lake Michigan. Every day we would go outside Cherokee School and measure the wind speed with an anemometer. We checked 2 websites to get the other data for the other locations in Lake Forest. We collected data for 3.5 weeks. Our findings are presented on this graph. According to our graph, the wind speed has varied from 0 to 25 miles per hour at Lake Michigan. Lake Michigan has the highest wind speed recorded in Lake Forest due to the consistent wind speed above 6 miles per hour. We concluded from our exploration of wind farms that flat, clear surfaces such as prairies are also good places for wind farms. Furthermore, the organization NEED, the National Education and the National Energy Education Development Project, Illinois ranks 15th in energy potential for wind energy potential. According to G. Botham from the University of Oregon, Lake Forest has a Class 2 and above rating, making it a good location for wind farms. A Class 2 rating means the wind blows at moderate speeds a high percentage of the time. This is called wind certainty. The places we propose for establishing wind farms in Lake Forest is at the beach and at Townline Park. In the future, an offshore wind farm would be highly effective as a way of using renewable energy for our town. In conclusion, Lake Forest is a good place for harnessing the wind. Lake Forest has good wind certainty and will work well for us in the future.
We are Team Solar. Solar energy. Sun delivers its energy in the form of heat and light. We are able to capture that energy in 2 ways. We can transfer heat energy into solar thermal energy in order to provide heat. We can also use light energy by capturing photons in photovoltaic panels and turning that energy into electrical energy. Solar thermal energy. Solar thermal energy is the use of solar energy to make heat. Thinking about it like getting into your car on a hot summer day. That kind of heat is used to provide heat for water and spaces. Solar thermal energy, like other forms of renewable energy, help reduce CO2 emissions. How does solar thermal energy work? First, the solar collectors absorb sun's rays. Then the sun's rays heat a transfer fluid. Then the transfer fluid flows into a heat exchanger inside a water tank where it heats the water. And finally, the heat transfer fluid flows back to the solar collectors to be reheated and repeats the process.
Photovoltaic. A photovoltaic panel is used to capture energy from the sun. Photo means light and volt means electricity. This means the photovoltaic panel relies on light energy, not heat energy. By combining solar cells and photovoltaic panels, we can produce electricity to perform jobs using energy from the sun. A photovoltaic panel is made of silicon, of solar cell. solar cells. The photovoltaic panel is made of silicon. Silicon is one of the most common elements found in the Earth's crust. This is the process of how to capture energy using a photovoltaic panel. The sun sends down photons that hit the Earth. The photons hit a photovoltaic panel made of solar cells. The photons free the electrons in the cell. The electrons inside the cell move around and go out the bottom through a wire. The flow of electrons is electricity or electrical energy.
Where is the best place to put a photovoltaic panel? The best place to put a photovoltaic panel is when you're not in the trees because you do not want the trees blocking the sunlight from the shade. In order for a photovoltaic panel to work, there needs to be direct sunlight from the shade. A good place to put the panel is on roofs of houses and buildings because there are no trees to block the sun. Solar panels will work best on flat rooftops or south-facing rooftops because more sunlight comes from the south. There are also solar panels which are ground-mounted, which means their bases are on the ground with the solar panel on the top. These are best in fields without tall objects close by to block.
About solar energy is how solar energy is too expensive, too complex, or that we live too far north for solar energy to be effective. People say we live too far north, but we don't. We have enough sunny days to power electricity using solar panels, and that energy can be stored too. People think that solar energy is too expensive. That may have been true many years ago, but as the technology develops, it becomes less expensive. There are even state and federal tax incentives for using solar energy. People think that solar energy is too complex. Just like solar energy being too expensive, as the technology develops, it also becomes less complex. Our photovoltaic panels were very easy to assemble. People think that solar panels are not pretty to look at. Most of our energy comes from non-renewable sources like coal, nuclear, and natural gas. Compared to these other options, solar panels are nice to look at. After all of our investigations, we recommend using solar energy to live for us for the following reasons. Solar energy is clean. Solar energy is clean because it doesn't pollute the air. Also, it doesn't pollute the water. Lastly, solar energy doesn't produce any greenhouse gases. Solar energy is also better to live for us because it is a renewable source of energy. Solar energy is a renewable source of energy, meaning there's more than enough for us to have. Every 2 hours, this energy reaches the Earth to meet our energy demands for a whole year. Renewable energy is energy that is generated from natural processes that are continually replenished. Solar energy is the best choice for Lake Forest because it makes us independent energy users. We are dependent users, our energy company controls our power. This centralized source of power can lead to outages because of storms and other natural disasters. With photovoltaic panels, we can control our own energy. For these reasons, we believe that solar energy is the best renewable energy source for Lake Forest.
The fourth grade students in Cherokee's inquiry block are not the only ones thinking that more renewable energy in Illinois and in Lake Forest is a good idea. After our study of renewable energy, we believe it is important to inform the many benefits
to inform people of the many benefits for Lake Forest and our state to use more wind and solar power to meet our electrical needs. We presented our findings to parents and representatives of the city of Lake Forest. Mr. Kurt Volkman was at our presentation and told us about a certain bill in Illinois that would do exactly what we were recommending. So we decided to write letters to our state legislators letting them know how important we think it is to use more renewable energy, and they both responded. State Senator Julie Morrison wrote individual letters to each student that wrote to her, and she agreed with us. Scott Drury took the time to come and visit our school. He brought experts in renewable energy from the Sierra Club and the Natural Resource Defense Council. They spent the morning with us and shared a lot about how a bill becomes a law. They also talked about how important clean energy is to Illinois.
State Senator Julie Morrison and State Representative Scott Drury introduced bills that will help renewable energy in Illinois. House Bill 2607 and Senate Bill 1485 were introduced to Illinois' General Assembly in February of 2015. House Bill 2607 didn't make it out of committee, but Senate Bill 1485 still has a chance to become law. Senate Bill 1485 has three main components. The first goal is to improve energy efficiency in homes and workplaces to reduce the demand for electricity by 20% by the year 2025. The second goal is to update and extend the state's current renewable energy standards from 25% in 2025 to 35% in 2030. The final goal is to meet the new standards to decrease carbon pollution that is called for by the Environmental Protection Agency's Clean Power Plan.
The bill is facing several challenges. Illinois is ranked number 4 as a coal producing state. Illinois is also ranked number 1 as a nuclear power production. The coal and the nuclear power industries create a lot of jobs in Illinois. Increasing the state's use of renewable energy would impact these non-renewable jobs. No one is ever in favor of losing their ability to care for themselves or their families. The good news is that the Clean Energy Jobs Bill will create 32,000 jobs annually a year once the standards have been fully implemented. Senate Bill 1485 was approved for its third reading to the Illinois General Assembly on April 22, 2015. We encourage you to follow the process of Senate SB 1485 at www.igla.gov. You can contact State Senator Julie Morrison or State Representative Scott Drury for further information or to offer your support. Thank you for letting us share what we have learned. I will now hand the floor back to the members of the collaborative to talk about energy-saving tips and solutions.
Thank you to the Cherokee Cheetahs for their wonderful presentation. It was quite informative, and I'm sure we learned a little bit about our renewable sources of energy that we could be using in Lake Forest. At the end of our program tonight, you're encouraged to take a look at the models that they have provided in the back of the room. So please make sure you take a look at those before you leave tonight. So Jim and I are going to talk a little bit about some things you can do in your own home or at your school to save some energy and maybe a few dollars. One of the things that you can do is install a smart thermostat. We're talking about one that can actually sync up to a mobile device, such as a smartphone or even a laptop of sorts. Many smart thermostats come with a geofencing capability, which actually can find out when you're close to your home or when you are leaving your home, and then will coincide with heat or cooling at that time to save energy in your home. These smart thermostats, which cost between $180 to $250, can alone save 15 to 20% on your energy bills alone. And some models can even detect if the air is getting humid or if you turn on an oven and can adjust the temperature to your home. As Kurt mentioned earlier, one of the biggest wastes of energy is light wasting of energy. And many of you are familiar with some of these bulbs you'll see on this graphic here, including our incandescent, our halogen, our CFL, and our LED bulbs. If you take a look at the top of each bulb, you'll see a yellow and a pink stripe. The yellow is the productive energy that is used by that bulb, and the pink is the wasted energy from that bulb. And the purple is the wasted energy from that bulb. So you can see that just by replacing your bulbs from incandescents to LEDs, you'll not only be saving a lot of money in the long run, you'll have upfront costs, but your return on investment of purchasing an LED will actually benefit you in the long run. An incandescent actually wastes more heat than it gives out light. So by upgrading to a CFL or LED, you'll be doing yourselves a favor. There are also places to recycle CFLs because there are sometimes mercury and things like that in CFLs, so it's important to dispose those properly. So you can also install some smart plug strips and you can also install power strips and plugs into your home that can also tell you a little bit more about your energy output. Many devices, such as TVs, continuously suck energy if left plugged in. We call those energy vampires, in a sense. If you invest in a smart power strip, as you'll see on the left, they allow you to toggle the power flow on and off, providing greater control over the power of clusters of devices so you're not consuming electricity when you're not around. So for instance, your Wi-Fi can stay on all day while your television powers off, and it ensures that it doesn't suck energy while you're not using your television. On the right is a cool little gadget called BERT. BERT is a plug that you can put into an outlet, and you can plug a device into it, and it can measure the output of energy from that device. It also can be connected to what we call a BERT Brain software that can also connect to your mobile device or your laptop computer. And users can use the plug and load measurement data from BERT to build return on investment cases. So for businesses, this is a great tool to use, or even for a school. And that also helps you reduce your wasted energy, as Kurt had mentioned earlier. Insulating your home can be a great way to reduce the amount of natural gas that you waste every day. And actually, the number one use of natural gas in Lake Forest is for heating our homes. I'm going to speed up. I just learned that I have just one more minute. In addition to saving energy, insulating your home increases the comfort of your home in many ways and reduces noise. You get less pollen in your home and better humidity control. So lower chances for ice dams and things like that, less repair on the home. ComEd and North Shore Gas are also currently offering rebates up to $400 for attic insulation and air sealing at this time, so please take advantage of those things if you are interested. If you maintain your HVAC units regularly, which we all do, of course, if we maintain our air conditioner once a year, you can actually save up to $65 a year just by maintaining your air conditioner. And also your furnace, by changing that filter once a month, believe it or not, it actually does reduce your costs. So when you're doing your laundry tonight, think about switching to cold water on your cycle. It's actually been shown that cold water, especially for newer machines, is quite efficient in cleaning clothes. And unless you have extremely soiled clothes or you have someone with the flu, you don't really need to use hot water. We have, we have warm water that is maybe at 103 degrees and hot water that's maybe 140 degrees. With that difference in temperature, we're not only using a lot more energy, but our clothes are not actually getting much more clean. So we actually recommend using the cold water cycle, and we think before we use our warm or hot water. And I'll breeze through these. Well, also, another way to save some energy and some time for your day, if you reduced your shower intake by 4 minutes per day, we can actually save about 4,000 gallons of water per year. And in addition to saving water, you'll also save energy to heat that water to that shower temperature. We also recommend that you look for these labels when buying new appliances. The one on the far left is our Energy Star logo. These Energy Star qualified products use less energy, save money, and also help protect the environment. Also, you may be eligible for some tax credits if you purchase these items. You can see their website, Energy Star, for also a calculator on how much energy you can save and also how much money you could save. In addition, on the right-hand side is a WaterSense logo. WaterSense is the EPA's logo for plumbing products that are very water efficient. And as Glenn mentioned, it takes a lot of water to make conventional energy, and it also takes a lot of energy to pump and purify water. So purchasing these products will save water in many ways. As the Cherokee Cheetahs had mentioned, considering renewable energy sources in your home, school, or other can be a great way to reduce our energy output. And I will skip to our last one really quick. Plant a tree. If you plant a tree right outside the south side of your home, in the summer you have shade, and in the winter, when the leaves are gone from that tree, you have some sun to heat your home. So where you place the tree and what type of tree is very important. And it's also very important that you plant maybe a native tree. So Lake Forest Open Lands is having a plant sale coming up. If you're looking for a tree to plant, that might be a good place to check it out. I'm now going to hand over the microphone to Jim. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Anissa. So, I am here to talk about ways to reduce gasoline consumption. And one thing that you can do to reduce gasoline consumption is to drive an all-electric or a plug-in, hybrid plug-in vehicle. So by doing this, you would save for an all-electric vehicle, you'd save about the price of gas now about $1,500 a year. And for a hybrid electric plug-in, you would save $1,000 a year. The electric vehicles sales have gone up 22% from last year. Some people stay away from them because of what they call range anxiety, but there are because you're not sure how if you're going to be able to get from point A to point B, but there's an app for that. So you can find out where the charging stations are. There are 3 levels of charging. You can do it at home. There's level 2 right at City Hall, and there are level 3, which is each level is a little bit better, higher voltage, and a little faster at Oasis, like driving Oasis on the highways. Another thing you can do is drive a fuel-efficient car. And when you're measuring fuel-efficient cars, what people are doing now, what scientists are recommending now, is to measure this in gallons per mile, not in miles per gallon. And the reason being is that you can focus more on fuel consumption, and really this is how the rest of the world does it. And it also shows you when you do that you get more bang for your buck by replacing a 24 miles per gallon car with a 34 miles per gallon car than you would from a 34 miles per gallon car to a 50 miles per gallon car. So if you're going to look at replacing fleets, that's a smarter way to go. More bang for your buck. Another thing is don't idle. This is a really big deal over where I work at the high school. You can actually feel the fumes coming in from the buses every day on the first floor. There you got that to look forward to, fourth graders. We'll get that fixed by then. If you idle, you're getting 0 miles per gallon. So that is not a good way to use your energy. And you also reduce, if you don't idle, you reduce your CO2. You use about a little less than 1 gallon an hour if you are idling. Driving the speed limit, this is really difficult to do, but if you slow down or you drive the speed limit, which is now 65 in most places on the highway, you reduce your fuel consumption by 13% versus 75. If you slow down all the way to 55 miles per hour, you are reducing your fuel consumption by 25%. Accelerate and brake steadily. Don't be a lead foot and then slam on the brake. It's annoying to be behind someone who's driving like that. One thing that you can do with your spouse is now that cars have the miles per gallon displayed right there, you can see how you do and then reset and see how your spouse does. And this is the only thing that I can think of where I'm better than my spouse. She beats me in all the other arguments. Get rid of the junk in your trunk. A lot of people, hopefully your car doesn't look like that, but a lot of people drive around with, basically the office in their trunk. And you decrease your fuel economy greatly when you even add 100 pounds. That includes people too. So reducing that is a really good way to go. If you are going to drive around, windows up is the most aerodynamic way to go. If it is just too hot and you can't bear it, you want to windows down, under 35 miles an hour, windows down, over 35 miles an hour, air conditioning on. That's a real nice rule of thumb. But another thing that you can try is if you turn on the vent setting and set it to the defrost position, you'll be surprised on how cool it gets. Inflate tires properly. Before you get in the car, have any of you fourth graders ridden a bike where the tires weren't inflated all the way? They're kind of flat. It's kind of hard. What's it like to ride those bikes? Is it easy or hard? I just kind of gave it away. Yeah, same thing in the cars. If we can improve our fuel consumption by 2% across the country, if everyone was to do that, we'd save 3 billion gallons of gas every year. Replace air filters. This costs about $20, but your savings are incredible. You double that every year if you replace the gas filter regularly, so the oil filter regularly. And finally, drive only when needed. If you only have to go a half a mile, take a walk. It's really nice, especially around here in the summertime, really pretty. So this is a real good way to get exercise and to save fuel. Thank you.
We were going to allow 45 minutes for questions. I won't put you through that. We wanted to be out of here by 8:30, so unless there are just a ton of questions, we'll take questions for about 15 minutes. We'll have Chuck Myers and Kurt up here to answer the questions because I'm incapable of doing that. So why don't we'll entertain questions now. Questions? No questions. Go home and watch basketball. Or have a glass of wine. Or do both.
Suggestions too, Jack, of what we ought to be doing as a community too are welcome.
Pardon me?
Any suggestions on what we should be doing as a community are welcome as well.
Yes. Well,
I'll say something.
okay.
Well, you just mentioned, almost in a passing comment, about the idling of the buses in front of the schools. Seems like that's an area where you might have some influence. A lot of benefits to the community.
We take care of it right now. Those signs are on order.
Starting right now. Good idea.
I should have said that. Yeah.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah. The signs have been ordered. We actually have a lot of pushback on not doing that.
Really?
For the cars, because when the parents come in and pick up, There was a lot of pushback to not have those signs for many years, but we've kind of won that battle now, and the signs have been ordered. So by the time you get there, we're going to be good. Yep. Didn't mean to scare you. But it scares me. I work there, you know. My sons go there.
Any other questions, suggestions? All right, I'm not going to keep you. I would like to thank again the 4th grade class. I'd like to thank everybody for coming this evening. I'd like to thank all the speakers.